Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting round of Smack Talk. I'm your host, James Cervone.
I'm Jacob.
I'm Star.
I'm Kazu.
And I'm Jacob, bigger, badder, and uncut.
And on today's episode of Smack Talk, we are going to be talking about choices. Now, what do we mean by that? We're looking about what sides you get to take on the games, where you get to go, what you get to choose, how you play, where you take.
It's a very broad definition, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, focusing on that, what do you think, like, when we're looking at the choices, like, what is required for a choice to be good? Like, because you can just throw in any arbitrary thing, like Nintendo, yes and yes.
I mean, yeah, you can, basically it is really, it sounds stupid, but it boils down to choice is literally just, to make a choice good, you have to actually have a choice in the matter. Like giving someone a static answer that you can just change the wording of isn't exactly interesting, in my opinion. Giving someone making an actual difference in what happens based off of what you say or choose, that's sort of what makes choice good in a video game. And that's just on a story and that's just from a story standpoint. There are plenty of games which take the gameplay and actually give you like the freedom of choice to change the game completely based on playstyle. That being games like
Divinity, original Sin.
Yeah, Dishonored. Dishonored is the ones that come to mind. Just by sheer difference of gameplay styles. But that's just my take on it myself.
So I kind of try and boil down choices to two parts. There's the gameplay choices and the narrative choices. And the gameplay choices are choices you make that are going to affect how you play the game from this point forward. Like in Pokemon, you can choose your starting Pokemon. That's going to affect your team comp from that point onward. How you build your team affects the strategies you make. But a narrative choice affects more of the world, and a good narrative choice should have lasting effect on how characters behave and how the world is. Like if a war breaks out and destroys a building, it should be reasonable to assume you can no longer enter that building.
And then there's the Force Unleashed.
We'll get to that later.
That wasn't
I
choice.
think.
Sorry, I had
That's
to
not
torture
choice.
you a
That's an
little.
alternate boss fight.
You could fight a building in that game? What?
What? No, you kind of can. Remember, the battles
never-
come in and you're
I've never played either game, so I
Oh.
honestly have no idea
oh,
what you're
yeah,
talking
you basically
about.
fight a building.
Skip Force Unleashed 2. That game's bad.
I skipped the first one.
Unless it's on the Wii.
The first
which is
game-
apparently good. I haven't played it.
No,
but-
the first, it's 2 on the Wii?
Yeah, apparently it's
Oh.
better. It's
I liked
completely
the
different.
original. I liked the first game on the Wii a little better too. It felt, I don't know why. It just felt like a better game to me.
Well, I guess if we are on Force Unleashed, I will talk about how bad choices can be implemented.
Like letting your
Lay it on
studio
me.
be
'Cause,
bought by EA.
No, so one of the things is the Force Unleashed is a very linear game that doesn't give you any choices up until the end. Right after, I believe it's when you defeat Darth Vader.
What?
Spoiler.
No, not yet.
Okay, fine,
Spoilers for
spoilers.
Smack Talk.
Spoilers for a game that wasn't that good and came out years ago.
Skip ahead if you don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Is it this time code?
Anyway, there's a boss fight
bar.
with Darth
Just
Vader,
skip.
and then at the very end, for no reason whatsoever, you get the choice whether you get to kill or save Darth Vader. Now,
Not entirely accurate.
well, you get to kill or not kill
You
him.
choose to go after Darth Vader to kill him or leave him behind to save everyone else. It's not really a save or kill Darth Vader.
No, it's kill or spare.
It's
that's
not
what-
really spare. You have a choice of fighting him or not fighting him.
Anyway, the point being that it doesn't matter what you choose, because if you choose to try and go kill him, you get stabbed in the back by, I think, a clone of yourself.
No.
I might be confusing the first
If you
and the
kill
second
Darth,
one.
that might be the
Is it a
second
clone
one.
trooper?
If you kill Darth Vader, again, spoilers, skip ahead. If you kill Darth Vader, he just dies and you replace him.
No.
Yeah,
you
that's how.
didn't.
Yeah, you kill him. You literally throw him out. Then the Emperor beats you, kills all the main characters, makes everything non-canon, and he's like, "You're going to become my new apprentice." Bleh.
Really? That's not what I remember. I remember it was either you get killed trying to kill Darth Vader, or you get killed not trying to kill Darth Vader. So basically, you get killed, but the choice affects whether you were morally right.
You may do that in Force Unleashed 2, but not in Force Unleashed 1. I remember the endings very vividly. Because I remember just how bad they were.
All I'm catching is that choices were bad in those games.
Yeah.
Well, the choices were bad because they didn't matter, and there was one choice at the very end with no, like, build up to, hey, you get to choose your morals or anything like that. Because everything else was, do this because you were told to do so, and then at the very end, they give you a choice.
Here's a choice. Play the Wii version. That one had broken
If you want
multiplayer that
a
was
bad
fun.
choice, I can one-up you.
Okay.
So in the game Saw 2, Flesh and Blood.
Oh boy,
Oh,
here
I know
we
this.
go.
For those of you who don't know,
There's a
Spoilers.
there are 2 Saw video games actually.
Go to this part.
In the first 15 minutes of the game, you're playing as a character who I don't remember if you learn his name at the moment. You're playing through a couple of Jigsaw's traps, and you get to a choice. Save yourself or save a rando. What the game doesn't tell you is that decision you make 15 minutes in, it's what decides what ending you get
Well,
at the end of this 6 to 8 hour game, where you play as a totally different character,
yeah.
and the guy you play at the beginning comes back then. That is how you do a terrible choice.
Well, to be fair, I understand that. Okay, again, spoilers, because that sort of keeps to the spirit of the original Saw movie, where literally the one thing he needed was gone at the beginning of the movie, where it sort of reflects like how you need to make sure this happens early on.
Here's the thing about the Saw movie compared to the Saw game. The game's about 5 times longer,
Yeah,
and those are 8 hours of your life you're not going to get back.
true.
And the Saw movie was good, the first one.
I was gonna say I think it's just bad game following bad movie, but that's all on me.
I didn't care for the Saw movies, to be honest.
I only think the first one was good, the rest sucked.
The first had a decent idea. Like, it was very psychological.
Yeah, bring back the guy from The Princess Bride. He hasn't done anything in 30 years.
Yeah.
I think like a really good example of both like the bad and the good stuff that you guys bring up is a game called Night in the Woods that came out recently. Real quick, when it comes to like choices in games, especially like narrative, I feel that the best way to do it is either do the 3 best ways, either do it subtly, don't do it at all, or make sure that you do a bunch that actually matter. Because there's nothing worse than coming to the end, like in Deus Ex, where you go through the entire game, you get to the end, and like the really only choice you have is that like, oh, this one, or this one, like Mass Effect 3 or something. Night in the Woods, what they do is that they, this is something that Fallout New Vegas did at one point, I think, where you had a quest where like a person from your past that you don't remember because you have amnesia, you can basically decide what the guy or what you did to the guy in the past to make him hate you.
Wasn't that
through
just the
dialogue
Lonesome Road
conversation.
DLC itself?
Maybe it was. I can't remember. But in Night in the Woods, what they do is that like you'll get a dialogue choice. Say you're looking at like your character in the mirror, and your character's like, "Oh man, I look terrible," and you have the choice like, "Oh man, my eyes are terrible," or "My face is terrible." And depending on which one you choose, later on your character will bring that back up when they're saying how they're terrible, and that's like a subtle approach where it doesn't really matter, but it's just this narrative like beat that adds a lot to the gameplay. Where like, oh, I made this choice for the character to like focus in on this aspect. This thing changed in the story to fit that I wanted this. In the beginning of the game, like, you get to say that like, oh, everything was really great in this town until a flood happened, and you can say that like it was a flood, it was an earthquake, or like whatever, and that reflects in the story that like, oh, that thing that you chose at the beginning was the background for why things started going wrong in your life. And then on the opposite end, where it was a terrible choice, there's a mini game they call Demon Tower, where this is a gameplay choice, where there would be a character that spawns in on the second floor, and if you kill him, good luck getting the true ending. You wasted 8 hours of your life, and Demon Tower is terrible. I hate it so much. Night in the Woods, good game though.
Now we're done talking about Demon Tower. I feel like another game that does that pretty well and actually offers real choice that changes the story of the game. Little title, not a lot of people I know have played. A little title called Oxenfree.
Oh yeah.
It came out a while ago. It's more of a, I wouldn't say point and click.
That's a point and click adventure.
It's a very, I'd sell it as like a weird sort of horror sort of experience. It essentially stars a bunch of kids who get on a boat, go to an island for this whole vacation thing.
Spring break.
Yeah, spring break, and they're, I don't want to spoil what the main threat is.
Wendigos?
No, this is
Wrong location.
Wrong game. But that game does a really good job of making each choice matter, because the small choices in dialogue will change how people look at you, and you can make people either love you or hate you just by like whatever you say to them. And in the end, that part really matters, because that changes the entire ending and like the fates of the characters themselves. You can choose to completely like change the future and the past and everything. There are a lot of really cool things that game does with storytelling and choice. One example I love. Oh wait, no, I can't say it. I'm sorry, never mind. It's a bit of a spoiler, and I'm not going to spoil that game yet. If you have the chance and the money, I'd suggest playing Oxenfree. It's a really good game.
Also, the soundtrack is amazing.
Yes, it is really good. Yeah.
We should get sponsorships from some of these games, man.
I
feel
am
like
8-bit.
we're really advertising.
Buy vinyls from I am 8-bit. Hey, sponsor us.
This is sponsored.
I got the Oxenfree soundtrack.
No, what
This
we
is
just
sponsored by
What we need
Oddworld.
to do,
Abe's
right, is we need
Odyssey.
to get buttons for who's ever sponsoring us and just put them on Kazu's hat.
So
Yes.
so anyway,
Anyway.
Chilling aside.
I think with choices, to make them good, what matters is that the magnitude of the choice should be reflected in the magnitude of like the effect, and that's kind of why I don't like the choices you can make in Skyrim, because you can make a lot of big choices that amount to basically nothing in game. Like whatever side you pick in the war doesn't matter. You kill like 2 major characters at most, and then a couple guards change the shirt they wear, but everyone acts the same and nothing really happens because the narrative doesn't advance past this side won and 2 people are dead.
And the Zim still gets the Cloud District.
Or then like if you decide to join the Dark Brotherhood or kill the Dark Brotherhood, all that really affects is certain quests. If you kill the Dark Brotherhood, 5 people are dead and you don't get access to certain quests. If you join the Dark Brotherhood, you kill maybe 5 people, and then you can spawn unimportant characters that you can kill for marginal amounts of money.
I think like the big problem with that is that like it comes down to like the creator's integrity to like committing to a choice, because a lot of developers I feel like would be afraid to like make something in their game that would restrict people from seeing all the work they put in, because like a lot of developers nowadays, they want to like have the user experience all the things that happen in the games. So like putting in choices, like I think the biggest thing is that like a developer has to understand that like committing to a choice and like working around it, putting in a choice doesn't matter if you can't like capitalize on it, if you can't make a payoff with it, if you can't make a reason for it. And so I think that like with games like Skyrim, the choices are just negligible. They're only there to fill in time. They're just there to like give you this false idea that you're doing something when you're just doing the same thing, and it's just a slight variation on what your character says, like what your character says or what someone says to you for a moment, and then it's gone because they want you to get back to like this is the main thing.
I mean, if we're talking about like choices with magnitude, a lot of people would bring up the Witcher series. I'm not gonna bring up Witcher 3, but rather Witcher 2, which I felt was more interesting in like the choices you could make. It was a bit more linear, but I still love how everything you do will change the narrative. Like that's a game which actually requires like multiple playthroughs to see everything, which is something I can't say for a lot of games because they claim they need that, but in reality 90% of the game is the same. This game is drastically different with each playthrough, and I love that. One choice in particular involves you trying to save the sort of political scene of the realm by saving like this heir to the throne. You do that, and I made it work so that like everyone's happy. Unfortunately, in the process, may have caused a slight genocide. But hey, it happens.
Slight genocide.
I cry every night. It's a fun game. It really makes you feel the weight of the choices. Like every choice you make, every big choice you make, which is most of the choices in that game, really does affect the story and narrative. And a lot of them aren't even just that big. They're more like personal.
I feel like one thing that's really important, like there's always, of course there's the thing of like your choices should mean something and have an effect on the world, but I think one of the most important things of that is like you have to have a world you care about in order for the choice system to be good. Because if you don't care what's happening in the world. Like, you're not gonna care what happens to it. Like, this is my whole big rant on Epic Mickey versus Epic Mickey 2.
Yeah.
Don't buy the second one. They may have gotten Oswald the Rabbit back, but don't do it. It's not worth it.
I'd argue don't buy the first one. I didn't love the first one that
The first one
much.
was fine.
It was fine, but like you actually had I don't know. I feel like it developed the world well enough to actually have you care about the characters and the environment you're in. And the second game just kind of threw that away. And I'm like, within 10 minutes, I'm like, why? I was like, man, I'm gonna care. I'm gonna try and care. And like 10 minutes in, I'm like, I'm just melting everybody. And it didn't matter what you did there.
It felt ultimately flawed to me. Like there were a lot of problems with it.
It wasn't a perfect game, but
thought
I
it
was
was fine.
physically hurt by the betrayal Epic Mickey 2 left in my heart.
Oh, Epic Mickey 2 was a disgrace, but
If you want to talk games with good choices, there's a little indie game I've been playing through recently called Lisa the Painful RPG.
oh god, here we go. That game.
That reaction sums up. Okay, this is the only major choice I'm going to spoil because it happens 5 minutes in.
Before we go on, public service announcement. If you ever play that game, do not play on painful mode. That's my sin to bear.
fear going to
Don't
sleep
do
every
it.
night.
You get
Jacob,
one
wrap
save
it
per
up.
slot, then it
You get one
explodes.
save per slot.
Anyway, literally, like, say 5 minutes in, you've just started, your daughter's been kidnapped. Also, last girl on Earth, as far as you know at the time. I haven't finished, so I don't know if there's more. You keep going, so you're going out to find him. You go and you find a guy who tags along with you named Terry. You're walking through, you get jumped by a gang. You have a choice. Kill Terry or give them all your items. And I actually had to stop and walk away to think about it. And it gets much harder from there.
That's one of the lighter choices too. Yeah, that game changes a man.
Well, looks like we had a pretty good discussion of choice there, guys.
That's really good.
What did you guys think? I'll leave that choice up to you. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Snack Talk. This was James.
Jacob?
I'm Star.
Kazu.
Jacob Deluxe.
We'll see you on the next round of Smack Talk.
Meat Lug Mountain changes a man.
Wink.